us on Facebook at Daunta A. Long. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta A. Long. Thank you for tuning in to LongTalk.
Well, good evening, and happy Tuesday to everyone. And as always, we're so very happy to have yet another opportunity to come into your places of viewership, whether you're at home, whether you're driving, whether you're at work, or wherever you may be viewing this broadcast on this evening. We're so thankful for yet another opportunity to host another Long Talk with you on this wonderful Tuesday evening. As always, we are so privileged that you take the time to tune in and join us for our Long Talk every Tuesday and every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's always a joy when we have the opportunity to be together. And so, as always, this may be your first time watching, or perhaps you've only caught this show once or twice before, but I need you at this time, if you will, to take just a moment and follow us here at Long Talk. You can go, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or even YouTube. Now, special instructions. If you're on YouTube tonight watching, please do us a favor, and will you please subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can be brought up to date each time that Long Talk is on the air. If you're here on Facebook, then I will ask you to please make sure that you hit the share or perhaps even start a watch party, because we have meaningful dialogue each time that we're on the air. So please do that for us, and I greatly appreciate you doing that on this evening. As always, we pray that you've been having a wonderful Tuesday and that you have gotten off to a winning week. And I'm just happy that we have another opportunity. I could say it a million times, but I really mean it from the very depths of my heart. I'm just happy that we have yet another opportunity to come wherever you're watching, and I am just grateful for this opportunity. I want to say this as well, that this is a very critical time that we are in transition during this continued time of pandemic and crisis and social unrest and unease, and all of these things happening in our time and in our land. And so I want us to remember that we have an avenue such as Long Talk, that we can come and we can dialogue and we can have meaningful conversation in finding out what is necessary to bring resolve to many of the difficulties that we face in this current era. And so tonight, I am so privileged to have one of my friends, and a guy again that I call my brother. He and I have known each other for many years. He's doing a tremendous work in Clayton County, leads a wonderful congregation, and does a lot of work in technology, also does a lot with helping individuals find their destiny, understanding their self-worth, and he specializes in that, and that's why I wanted to bring him on tonight. So, Long Talk audience, would you please help me welcome my special guest? He is Rob McNair. Hey, how you doing, friend?
Hey, how's everything going, man?
Man, all is well this evening. Trust all is going well for you.
Yeah, everything's going great. Wonderful. Fantastic. Everything's going good, man.
Man, I'm so happy that you've taken the time to be with us here tonight on Long Talk, and just grateful that you have availed yourself. I know you're very busy, got a lot going on between work, family, husband, and all that great stuff. And there's a lot of people that may not know exactly who you are, Rob. So do me a favor and just greet our audience tonight and tell us a little bit about who Rob McNair is.
Okay, cool. Well, what's up, everybody? My name is Rob McNair. A lot of you all know me as Pastor Rob McNair, and I pastor an amazing church called the Bar Church in Riverdale, Georgia. Me and my wife tag team that thing together. And yes, I did say the bar, BAR. Every time I say that, people kind of get a little like, what do you mean the bar? Do you have church in the bar? Well, I'm not opposed to having church in the bar because I like getting people saved, but we actually have a ministry that we kind of feel like people necessarily they don't always like to go to a church that has like a steeple and all those different things. So we decided to kind of like have it a more of a less traditional stance. And so bar actually means the believer's authority restored. So it does have a meaning as well. But me and my wife are just we're there. We've had the church for about 5 years now. Matter of fact, 6 years now. And
Wow.
things have been just going really great. Even during the pandemic, things have been just they've just been going great. And we're community people. We love on people. And like you said, I am pretty busy because I still have a full-time job. We got two young kids. I got a 4-year-old and I got a 1-year-old. So it's a lot going on. But hey, God is good. We are excited about the things that He's doing.
Man, yeah, you really do have a lot going on with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, man.
Yeah,
But
man. Yeah.
but that has not stopped you from what I believe your focus has been, and what a lot of people can attest to, that you are one that really helps individuals in a very non-traditional uh, concept through the name of your church, Bar Church.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people are taken aback when they hear that, as you said, but once they get past that and really hear the messages that you, and not only you, but as you said, your wonderful wife share, and I have heard many of them over the years, and but to find out that there's always an essence of you helping individuals
Yeah.
understand who they are. And
Yeah.
that's why tonight I thought it was most necessary to have you come on and talk to the Long Talk audience, to really help individuals find their self worth, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that this is something that a lot of people are asking for in this time of crisis, because of the high level of fear and anxiety, trepidation, and the like, where individuals don't know what to do. And not only do they not know what to do, but now they don't even know who they are, because
Yeah.
they're being told to do. And one of the studies that I did several weeks ago, Rob, was to find out that there has been an alarming rate of suicides in America since COVID-19, and also during the time of the police brutality killings of unarmed black males in America. There have been more suicides, particularly among individuals between the age of 50 top end and 27 bottom end. There's been a spike over 40% more this year than opposed to last year. And I wanted to talk about this on this evening, because many people that's even in our community, we've seen a few suicides that have happened here recently. And with these suicides, it makes you wonder, do individuals understand self-worth, or have they given up on self-worth,
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. That's man. That's I didn't know that the numbers, had really been increasing. I kind of felt like they would
Yeah.
because people don't have that sense of self worth, and so we find worth in so many different things. We find worth in social media. We find worth in what the news is saying. We find worth in what other people have told us. And I think we're so far removed from really what God says about us. And if
Yeah.
we're able to introduce what God says back to us into the fold, then we'll understand truly what self-worth is. Because right now, I mean, we look at social media, and before the pandemic hit, I mean, I had friends that, man, let me tell you, they were traveling like every week internationally. And I'm sitting here
Mm-hmm.
like, what kind of job do you do? Like what is it that you're over in Bali, and then you're over in Thailand, and then you're over in Greece, and then you're hitting up the World Cup, and I'm just kind of like I'm looking, but see, I'm just kind of like, well, what do you do? But I'm sure there are a lot of people that are looking at them and thinking that they have no value, thinking they'll never be able to get to that point to travel, and they're weighing themselves versus what somebody puts on social media.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we can't do that. That's a false representation of who those people are.
I agree. I agree. And you touched on that, and which really leads me here to my first question. I took some notes here because I really wanted to. I said, when I get the opportunity to talk to you, I gotta run these by you. Many believe that self worth is comprised of three major components, right? They say it's comprised of ability. It's also comprised of effort. And thirdly, it is comprised of performance, which you kind of talked to just a moment ago of what I see. Man, you're traveling. You got the designer clothes. Man, you really here's that phrase we hear a lot in our community. Rob, you're really doing it, man. You're doing it, right?
Yeah, we hear that.
That's
We hear that a lot.
performance. So
Yeah,
they
we hear that a
believe
lot.
they believe self worth is comprised of ability, effort, and again performance. Is that really what self worth is about?
No, not at all. I don't think. I think that might be what we can call the quote unquote the world's definition. But I think the problem with that is when you're measuring yourself up to an ability, what happens when you fail and you
Ooh.
continue to fail over and over again? Does that mean that you're not valuable? Or if we have been brought up under this performance bubble, right? In
Yeah.
school, we were supposed to perform to get grades. When we played sports, we were supposed to perform and do well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in college, obviously, the same thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
then when we get into our adult years, guess what? We have to perform for work, right? If we can't perform for work, we can't get a promotion. So all of these things are built on self performance, ability, and all these different things. But if you start to fail, then you start to equate yourself to your failures. And so that's why I really, really, really don't like to say self worth can ever be found in anything that we do. The only thing we can find self worth in is what God says about us. Because what God says about us is something that's infallible. What God says about us is something that is never changing, is never
Yeah.
ending. It's something that, God in his word, I think it's Ephesians 2:10, he calls us his masterpiece.
Mm.
And when we think about a masterpiece, we think about the Mona Lisa, right? You go
Yeah.
down to Italy or France or wherever it is, and you're like 30 feet away from this little bitty picture of this lady who is really not anything, to really gawk at or stare at. It's just this picture, right? But they call it priceless. They call it a masterpiece. And it's not living, it's not breathing, it's just painted by somebody, and they decided to call it a masterpiece. But God says that we are his masterpiece. We're created by him. He knows all the hairs on our head. He knows every nook and cranny about us. He knows everything that we are. He knows all the little weird stuff, the little things that we don't really like to talk about ourselves. He knows that, and he created that because I believe he likes quirkiness about us. I believe he likes uniqueness about us. So when he says we're his masterpiece, or another version actually says that we have become his poetry. Man, when we think about that, that means everything we do is authored by God. And when we understand that worth, that's when we can have true self-worth. Because no matter if I fail 100 times, if I'm not performing well on my job and I get fired, if I lose my house, if I lose my car, if I lose everything, the one thing I can know is that I was made by God and he called me valuable. So these things that are going on in my life are temporary because God has called me his masterpiece and he's going to work everything out.
But Rob, I just can't get over my loss though. Especially now with COVID, I've lost friends, I've lost family members, I've lost neighbors, I've lost coworkers, I lost my job.
Yeah.
If Congress don't hurry up, if the Senate doesn't bust a move real quick, Rob, I'm gonna lose my benefits.
Yeah. Yeah.
What am I without all of this, man? What am I going to do if I lose this?
Right. And the thing is, you're not alone. This is what I would tell somebody. You're not alone. There's plenty of people in this situation. And again, our trust and our confidence has to be in God. It can't be in what we see or what we hear. A lot of times, the reason why we feel like we're such a failure and we're losing everything is because we're looking at what's going on in social media. We're looking at what's going on in the news, and we're looking at what's going on around us. We've lost family members and we've lost friends to this horrific virus. And it's one of those things where we can sit and we can become depressed on who we lost, or we can always be thankful for the times that we did have for them. That's one of those things about death that continues to occur, is that we can always get in a place where we're depressed, or we can always say, you know what, man, I had great times. Like outside of COVID, I've lost a great deal of friends, from everything from car accidents to cancer, to all these different things. And one of the things that have always helped me get over is thinking about the good times and just thanking God for the good times. And then knowing, if they're a believer, knowing that I'm going to see them again. But if we don't have that peace, if we don't have that rock solid understanding, that trust in God, then, we're going to be all over the place. I mean, you look at the news. I don't care what news you look at. You can look at Fox and CNN. It's some crazy something going on. And it's just like, it's like right now, in the midst of everything that's going on, it's just like everything is heightened and everything is to an extreme, and they're trying to make you forced to pick sides. What is the right side? What is the wrong side? But it's not even man. If we pull back, if we take a moment to turn off the news, we take a moment to stop picking up the phone, stop texting. A lot of times we feel like we got to answer the phone immediately. Now that we got these things right here, we feel like we got to answer the phone immediately. I remember back in the day, if we didn't want to pick up the phone, guess what? We didn't pick up the phone. And then we didn't have text messages back then. Now people feel like you got to respond immediately once you send a text. No, I don't. I will respond when I want to, when I can. It's the same thing as calling me. But we need to be able to pull away from all these different things and be able to get before God. One of the most important things that I'm teaching, and that me and my wife teach, is that you have to learn to hear the voice of God above every other voice that you hear. Because the voice of God is always going to build you up. The voice of God is always going to lead you in the right direction. The voice of God is going to fail you. But guess what? Stuff changes on CNN every day. Stuff changes on Fox every day. Stuff changes on social media every single day. Every minute, there's always something new. There's always a different fact, a different truth, and all these different things, and people trying to expose somebody else for saying stuff. You never have all the right facts and all these different things. But one thing that doesn't fail is hearing the voice of God. So if you can shut all of that stuff out, I know the government might be, you might be losing your benefits, but God is still God, and God will still make a way. I know you might lose your job, but God is still God, and God can still make a way. Because in the midst of that, you know how many people have actually become amazing entrepreneurs during this same time because they lost their job?
Yeah.
If you never lost your job, then you may not have an opportunity to become an entrepreneur. We always have to look at the positive and what God is really introducing, because God always gives us an opportunity. But if we're always focused on the doom and gloom, guess what? We're always going to see the doom and gloom.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're debunking that most popular theory that worth is in ability, effort, and performance.
Yeah, I can't subscribe to that. Where, if anything, it's God that's working on the inside of us. Matter of fact, Philippians 2:13 said it's God that works within us both to will and work according to his good pleasure. So
Yep.
if anything, any type of ability we're doing is lined and backed by God. It's not anything that we need to do, because if we build it on ourselves, when that failure comes, oh, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna
Woo.
hurt, and we ain't gonna be able to get back up.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And Pastor Rob, you know, right now, you and I both pastor people that are currently hurting, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to come and ask you that, because I
Yeah.
know that while we pastor people that are hurting, there is a whole community of individuals that are hurting just like many of our congregants, and some are hurting even more. I was talking with a young lady on Monday who talked about the fact that she's gone through losing 2 husbands in less than 6 years.
Wow.
Can you imagine losing 2 spouses to violent crimes?
Man, that's so sad.
And all I could say to her the other day was, you have, God is not angry at you. God is not punishing you. This is not because of your past performance, right?
Right. Right.
This has nothing to do with your effort, what you tried to do and it didn't work, or
Right.
what you did not do, you know. And that's why I wanted to bring you on tonight, because I know that you're always specializing in teaching people about the grace of God, and the fact that God is not a God is not a punisher of individuals for any reason. And
Right.
man, I'm so glad that you started this conversation off in that vein. Man, listen, real quickly, we got to go to a commercial break, and
Yes,
right
sir.
after this, we'll be right back.
All right.
Equality versus equity. Equality means every child gets a pair of shoes. Equity means every child gets a pair of shoes that fit. That means every school district has to meet every student's individual needs.
I'm Jerry O'Green with the Black Student Advocate. We advocate for Black employees and Black students within the K through 12 school districts. We hold school districts accountable to make sure that Black students and employees are in a fair and equitable workplace.
We're back, and tonight we are on with our special guest, Rob McNair. And if you're just joining us, we are in amidst a conversation of discussing self-worth. And one of the first things we tackled this evening in this evening's conversation was, so what you got going on? What are you doing? How's it working for you? Are you doing that, if you will? And Pastor Rob said emphatically no. Emphatically no. Boy, you doing that. And you said, no, you're not doing it. No, you can't do it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Quickly, if somebody's just joining us, just recap that real quick. Why is it not about those things?
It's not about those things. It's all about what God is doing in us. And if we always focus on the things that we do, what happens when we fail? That's always my biggest thing. Like, what happens when you fail? Because people interpret failure differently. Like, sometimes people can fail and, they'll get up and dust themselves off. But I've met some people who they might have failed at just something that might seem to be so small to me. And they might fail at it. They might, well, I can't get this right, and I can't get that right. But you have to find your worth in God. I mean, the same thing with dating. Same thing with dating. If you continue feeling like you're not good enough, you all you get is scumbags, and all you get is all these people that are treating you wrong, and you start getting down about yourself, you're removing yourself from being self-worth. Like, you're removing yourself from what God has said about you. And a lot of times we end up in these bad, sorry, terrible, sucky relationships because we trying to go and pick somebody when we should have just waited for God to let us know. Because guess what? When we pick somebody, we pick them with our eyes. We pick them with what we think, how we think they're going to look on our arm, and all these different things. But when God has somebody for us and we're open to hearing what God said, then it's not even going to be like that. But sometimes, we're always driven by what we see and what we hear outside of it. And we can't do it.
Can't do it. McNair, want to throw something else at you real quick. I know we could go on all night, but I got to throw this at you real quick. Here's another thing. Can someone have self-confidence but lack self-worth? Is that possible?
Actually, yeah. Because just like what you said, people are committing suicide all the time. I'm sure those people that committed suicide had confidence in some of the things that they can do. I mean, just think about it. Think about Kate Spade.
Oh my God, Rob, you took the words out of my mouth. I was in Orlando a couple of days ago, and when I drove by her store, I almost caused a wreck on the street because I just stopped. I was thinking, boy, what? Do you know how many women out here are just working their behinds off to get their own product line?
Exactly. And she's got stores galore. Think about Anthony Bourdain. I used to love watching it.
He traveled the world.
Everywhere. He had some of every food possible, man. I used to love watching him late at night when I couldn't go to sleep, man. I used to love watching all these different things. Like, who would not want to be in that position? And therefore, you got a guy who committed suicide. I'm sure he was confident in the things that he knew. I'm sure Kate Spade was confident in the clothes, in the branding that she had. People are confident in things, but when you have no self-worth, when you don't know that you're God's masterpiece, when you don't know that you're God's poetry piece, that God wrote you, that God created this quirkiness, then you feel like you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how good you are at something. I mean, we can go to athletes that have committed suicide. We can go to any type of entertainer that has committed suicide. We can go to any type of millionaire or billionaire that has committed suicide. They have been all confident in one or many things, but what they may not have had is self-worth. I know we can talk about the issues of depression and mental illness and those things, and I know we have that. So let me not tell everybody that suicide is always something that can be easily rectified. Sure. I want to make sure that I'm clear about that, but I also want people to know that there's often times that people, when they don't have the foundation of self-worth, and understanding that it doesn't matter how much you got, how many things you do, you can be confident in a lot of things, and you can still end up committing suicide. Yeah, it's that's why it's so important now, because a lot of times we feel like when we have a foundation in money or in success, that then we know what our self-worth is. Let me tell you something. These people on social media, these stars on social media, they're trying to fit in just like everybody else. They'll put up a picture, and if it doesn't have a number of likes within the first 5 or 6 minutes, they'll take it down. Matter of fact, you know how many people take selfies? How many times do people take selfies before they actually post a photo? You know what I mean? They'll take a picture 5, 10. Oh no, this ain't good. That ain't good. You know what I'm saying? So they're trying to do all these different things, just trying to get the right look, because guess what? Their worth is not there.
Rob.
Yeah.
I've worked so hard for this brand, LongTalk, right?
Yeah.
You've worked so hard for What is the Bar. We've spent thousands of dollars behind our brand, right?
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of dollars marketing our brand.
Mm-hmm.
I am my brand, right? I eat, sleep, drink LongTalk, right? I put hours. And we got business owners, entrepreneurs, entertainers, like you said earlier. And I want to push this a little further, Rob, because I really sense that somebody's watching this asking, but I am my brand. Am I my brand?
You know what? Even though you're closely related, you're not. You're you.
What do you mean, man? What do you mean? I am my brand.
Where were you before your brand? Where were you before your brand? Where were you before your brand? At the end of the day, if you lost your brand, are you gonna die? Unless you kill yourself, no, you're not. You're still gonna be you. You know what I mean? If I lost the bar for whatever reason, guess what? God still loves me.
Woo.
Guess what? God is still there for me. Guess what? I can still hear his voice clearly. I can still make another brand. There are people that have lost brands and gone into bankruptcy and then started other brands. You know what I mean? No, we can closely identify because that's the association. I am my brand, but really, you really you are who God says you are, and that's it. And if you have belief and foundation in that alone, it doesn't matter what you go through. It doesn't matter what you lose.
My God.
You're still God's child. And you know what? And you can even put it this way. No matter what I do, I still was born to Rob and Mildred McNair. No matter what I do, no matter where I go, they are always going to be my parents. Now, you got people that quote unquote divorced their parents, but in actuality, they still brought you into this world, right? Still
Absolutely.
a sperm and egg together and created you, right? There's no way I could ever not be associated with Rob and Mildred McNair. And the same thing goes with our Heavenly Father. When we become a believer, we have to understand that God created us. We're God's children, and there's nothing that we can do that'll separate us from that. And that's the identity that we need to have. I will always be the son of Robert and Mildred McNair, no matter how old I get. I got aunts and uncles right now that are in their 90s. I'm almost 40 years old. They still call me Little Robbie. You know what I'm saying? Because they know Big Robbie is my dad. You feel me?
You're not Pastor Robert McNair to your uncles that call you Little Robbie?
No, I am Little Robbie, and if they even look, if they even know, paid attention that I'm a pastor, y'all, you know how older folks do. Older folks, they go in their own direction, and it is what it is. You know what? And all I can say is that I will never be separated from being my parents' child, and we'll never be separated from being God's child.
Rob, can I let you in on a little secret?
Yeah.
Thousands of people watch this show, right? Last Friday at my cousin's 40th birthday, you know what my aunt said?
What'd she say?
Danny, go over there and get me a soda, please.
You can't escape it. You cannot escape it, man.
Oh my God. Do you know how humbling that is?
Yeah.
When let's be honest, Rob, we go to church and we have people that, and I hate to be honest in this way, if we say it, they'll do it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
If I say, staff, we need to get this service going by 10 and not a moment after.
Yeah.
Musicians, we need to do this. Greeters, you need to be out there doing. Yes, sir, Pastor. Yes, sir, Pastor. And I do my very best to try not to abuse that, but swinging the pendulum, Danny, go get me a soda.
Yeah. Guess what? I can preach my tail off, right? And guess what? When I come home, my wife will still be like, "Can you still take out the trash?" You know what I'm saying?
Bro, I didn't even go there. Because once this show is over, I don't know if my wife is watching. She gonna say, Anwar, did you bring the trash up?
Exactly.
But I just had Rob and I were just doing LongTalk, and 1,000 people were watching.
Yeah, but that brand don't matter.
Did you bring that trash up? Because trash comes in the morning, right?
Exactly.
But guess what? I'm Daunta Long, right?
Right.
Not tonight when this show goes off, because if I don't get that trash, Rob, can I sleep in your basement tomorrow?
Look, I have to ask and see.
You got to ask and see, right? Yeah. So, yeah, man, it's really just a humbling experience for us not to take as serious our performance and our effort. While I'm not saying, again, we become lackadaisical or even apathetical, right?
Right.
But not to take it so serious that if we suffer a loss or a failure, that we lose everything. I always think about Miss Kate Spade. I always think about Mr. Anthony Bourdain, because these are two individuals that most of us would give a kidney, excuse the expression,
seriously,
if we could be in their shoes.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right.
Whew.
You're right, man.
Jeez, I don't.
You got one more question for me? Come on, man.
I,
We good.
I got so much more I want to ask you. Uh, I just, man, that's to me that's liberating, Rob. That's liberating.
Yeah.
That at this juncture in our lives, with what where the grace of God has positioned you and me and many others like us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet we have to still know that if it were not for the grace of God, there go I.
Yeah.
Or, I like to swing the pendulum, and with the grace of God, there go I. Because I don't always want people to think that grace saves you from.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes grace helps you through, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, buddy. Yes, buddy. Yeah, you said
Yeah.
that. Sometimes that's all you can fall on. Grace will just help you through. It's like I like to say all the time, we like to talk about how preachers and how they quote unquote fall from grace when they have something major happen in their ministries. But that's not the thing. It's grace that catches them, and grace is what carries them through. When they recognize that even in the midst of their failure, that God still is with them, that God is still talking to them. Like we're one day we can have a conversation, just talk about how many inaccuracies that people preach about and thinking that God stops talking to you when you fail. Or when God, like in one of the prime examples is you can look way back in the beginning when Cain killed Abel. Guess what? Cain and God were still talking and still had a conversation. So that's one of the things when we're sitting here like, well, God ain't gonna do this. No, God did it in the very beginning. God is always gonna talk to you. God is always going to be there for you. Now, He may not be supporting what you may be doing, but God is always there. Matter of fact, David said, I can go up to heaven or I can make my bed in hell. But guess what? God, you are always there. And He's always talking all the time. But if we don't acknowledge Him, if we don't know what He said, if we don't pay Him attention, we don't learn to hear His voice, man, we're clueless. It's mind blowing. We can go for I can go for a long time with this, man.
What else can I say behind that? I will ask you this last question, which we've kind of hinted on, but I'm sure you want to dig in a little deeper. And here it is when I penned it like this. Do you believe that self-worth can be accomplished through not only self-effort, but through attainment of more self-confidence? So I said again, self-effort, meaning if I can just get a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right? Or is it what you've been alluding to all night, God-given?
It's God-given, and the one of the things.
Or before you go into it, or is it both or both?
We have to be cautious and understand that we're always going to accumulate more if we always work hard, and those are the things that come. We do have to understand that there's value in things that we do. So I can say God finds me worthy and I'm His masterpiece, and then therefore when it comes to my business, I'm going to charge a certain amount. Some people, I don't want people to think that everything is always just founded in, okay, it's just what God said and that's it. Yes, it is, but like I was saying earlier, it's God and doing His will to work according to His good pleasure. So the thing that He puts on the inside of me to do in order to make a living is not for me to price gouge and try to get over, but it's also not for me to just give up everything because God is the only one that finds me worthy, So there's definitely a balance in that, right? But I believe one of the things that we always do, self-worth without Jesus is self-righteousness. And we have
Whoa,
to be
say that again.
cautious.
Say that again.
Self-worth without Jesus is self-righteousness.
Self-worth without Jesus is self-righteousness.
Yeah.
I don't know who's watching tonight, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, but can you write that in the comments? Say it again for us, Rob.
Self-worth without Jesus is self-righteousness.
Wow. I've never heard that a day in my life. That is so powerful.
Well, the thing, when we think about what self-righteous is me finding a way to say I'm better than you. So basically, I have more money than you. I can talk down to you. I do this better than you. I do that better than you. I don't basically, we can say we're perfect all day long in our eyes, but we can look at somebody else and say, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. And when we find ourselves without Jesus, because the only way we can find worth is say, hey, guess what? God said I'm a masterpiece. And guess what? He said, you're a masterpiece too. He said, that person's a masterpiece too. Oh, and that person's a masterpiece too. Even though they're on drugs, even though they prostitute, even though they selling dope, even though they did all these different things, God still created them and they're still a masterpiece. So therefore, we're one Jesus away from going to hell anyway, right? Right. You know what I'm saying? That's the only difference between us and somebody that's not saved. We're one Jesus away, and oftentimes it's always based down to a decision. The reason why this person might have gotten pregnant out of wedlock and you didn't. Maybe you were more cautious. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's not like. Or maybe there's something that broke her. So you know what I'm saying? It's those different things that we try to say that, oh, I'm better than you and all these different things, when actually it could have been you. It probably should have been you, but it wasn't, So it's one of those things where we have to realize and understand, if we have self-worth, that we understand what God said about us, and we understand that we have Jesus, then we have to move away from the self-righteousness, because we can easily get caught into, once I got $1 million, then I'm not going to hang out with you no more because I got $1 million. So I need to go ahead and get my car, get my Bentley, get my Rolls, get my big old mansion, get all these different things. And instead of me treating you the same, treating you as equal, now I'm better than you because I worked all this hard for my game and all these different things. So now I'm better than you, man. You're right. Listen, that money can be blown away as quickly as it was made. So definitely, like I said, self-worth without Jesus is self-righteousness.
But I don't subscribe to the teachings of Jesus, right? That's for you church people.
Mm-hmm.
That's you church people, Rob.
Yeah.
Is there any other way?
You might think there's a way. You know what I'm saying? I hate to tell you. And one of the things that I there's a lot of people that's out there, and we have to be honest, upfront Christians. We have to be honest, upfront Christians and recognize that there are some things in the Bible even we still be scratching our head about. Yeah. We don't know it all. We don't know everything that Jesus did. And I think when we come from that standpoint, when we're talking to people that aren't believers, then they have a more eye-opening experience, because if we just come and say, well, Jesus said, there's a lot of stuff that Jesus said that even you don't understand. Because sometimes it takes revelation and spending time with Jesus to be able to understand what he was really saying. And I believe that's where we falter a lot, even as Christians, when we get into this whole religiosity type of thing. We're just saying things just because that's what my mama said, my daddy said, my pastor said, and not getting to a point where we develop that relationship with Jesus. We start saying a whole lot of stuff that honestly, it does not make sense. And so when we're talking to somebody who doesn't believe in Jesus, and we start using all these churchy words and we start using all these different things about what Jesus said, they don't care. They don't care. But one thing that I do know, and this is one thing that, because I got a lot of friends that aren't saved. I got a lot of friends that that at one point were completely turned off from even hearing the word Jesus, to now being at a place where they're actually understanding through our life living through the way that we live, through the way that we interact, through the way that we love, through the way that we're supposed to do, that'll open up eyes, man. That'll open up eyes. You don't have to preach a Bible and preach scripture to people all day long. Let people see how you live. Let people see how you give to the needy. Let people see all these things. Let people see how you pray for people. Let people really see the miracles of God when people are really healed. Like, let people be able to see that, put God on the forefront, and we take a step back, because when we put God on the forefront, then they're really going to be able to see, okay, well, maybe there is something about this Jesus guy. Maybe, and Pastor Rob said there's a lot of things that he may not understand either. So maybe I'm not alone, and all these different things. Like we got to get out of this place and feeling like where the buck stops here, because I'm the pastor and I know everything from Genesis to Revelation, which is a lie. You know what I'm saying? I know everything that Jesus said. I know every single miracle. I know every single parable. I know every single thing that he meant in the Hebrew and the Greek and the King James and the New Living Translation and the Message. I know it all. I got it memorized. No, you don't. So sometimes we got to understand and take a step back and just be real with people and say, hey, you know what? I know you don't understand this. Let's walk this journey together. Or guess what? You know what? I don't know. Let's walk this journey together. And that's how we introduce people to Jesus, and really people getting an understanding about their self-worth. And then we can always point everything that they got back to God anyway. But I can go on about all this stuff, man. I just get gassed up. I get gassed up, preacher. I get gassed up.
Absolutely, man. And I'm just thankful that you always place an emphasis on helping individuals understand what true self-worth is all about. Because while you're doing that, still there's a message that is promulgating that we got to do more, right?
Yeah.
We got to get into it. We got to do more. We got to work harder. We got to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
Yeah.
We got to, if I could do it, you can do it too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just heard that this morning. Asking somebody for some knowledge, and their reply was, well, I had to get out here and do it, so sure, you can do it too. I was thinking, but if you've got the knowledge and I'm asking, don't you think you could help? But that's that's another conversation for another day. But as this prevailing message is promulgated, drive, brand, accelerate, go faster, go harder, go hard in the paint. All of these colloquialisms that we hear. How do we balance that with understanding what true self-worth is all about? Final question.
Honestly, you can go hard all you want. You can go hard in the paint. You can accelerate. You can go. But if you're not connected to the one that can give you some direction, you might be headed to a cliff. And that's the one thing that I really, really encourage everybody to do. Learn to hear the voice of God. So when it's time to go, you go. But when he says stop, you stop. Some of us have to learn the vocabulary of silence because we're talking too much.
Yeah.
Some of us have to learn patience. Some of us have to learn to see that every personal failure is a learn. I like to say sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, because every loss is really a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And so if we have that type of opportunity to learn to hear the voice of God, everything starts to become sweatless, and everything starts to become based off of that. I'll tell you something real quick before I'm done. You all know we just moved in our church building at the end of last year, and previously, and the stories, I've been in a couple of places One place, we first started out, which was an amazing place we couldn't afford, so we had to leave, and we kind of bounced around a couple different places. And so when I got the dream to move into the building that we're in, God said 50, and I woke up and I didn't understand it, because everything that I always thought and believed was go bigger, go higher, go more, go this, go that, right? If you don't, if you think small, you're thinking too small. You got to think big, and you got to do all these different things, right? But God was like 50. And so I spoke to my spiritual dad, and I said, God told me 50. And he said, guess what? That's God. And I said, really? He was like, yeah, that's God, because you have the audacity to hear his voice and not run with the crowd and do what everybody else says you need to do. And even going back on his previous teachings, he said, when you spend time with God, you know exactly what God has told you to do. So here we are, fast forward in the middle of COVID-19. Imagine if I would have got a building that sat 500 people. Imagine if I would have got a building that sat 1,000 people, and a power bill and all these different things. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're a congregation of 50, and on great days, 70, 75 people. I could have been out there and I could have called it faith and said that I got me this building and that building. But then when COVID hit, God said, remember, I told you 50. So guess what? I'm not worried about no money to pay for nothing. Matter of fact, I can actually invest more money in camera equipment and those type of things because I don't have a high overhead. God knew, and because I heard his voice, I was able to count on that. Now, other people were saying, that ain't God, God didn't say this. No. Understand me clearly. I hear the voice of God. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
When I hear God's voice, I don't care what you said, what you think, what you taught. You could have taught this to other people. Good. That's good for you. That's good for them other people. And he might have told you to get a 500 seat place. But for me, he told me to start with 50. And I'm so glad that I did that.
My. You don't know who you just helped, Rob. There's some pastor out there still wanting to get that big building, still wanting that beautiful ambiance.
You can get there. People don't know that we were in a place. We had to leave the contract. We were in a place we had to leave, and we had to go and have services at houses for 3 months. That tore me up on the inside. I said, God, I don't know, man. I don't want to have no church in nobody basement. I don't know what got going on in there. I don't know who house we going over. I don't know. I was mad. You can ask my wife. You can ask my team.
Rob, when my spiritual father told me to go have church at my house before we got our campus, can I be transparent and tell you what I told him?
Yeah.
I said, no. I ain't doing that. And he said, all right, and just let me go.
Man, listen, it's a thing. It's a wake-up call, because then you start learning and realizing that you're not comparing yourself. You start wake up and realizing that I'm saying that you are comparing yourself. But when you're listening to the voice of God, then it's one of those things where, it's you may be kind of unsure, but this is God. I want to ask your people one thing before we go, because I know you got to go. And this is something that I believe everybody can do when practicing hearing the voice of God. And it's one thing, and it goes just like this. Have you truly asked God what he thinks about you? Just sit back and say, God, what do you think about me? Those things that are in your head, see, he's not going to tell you nothing crazy, right? So he's not going to tell you, it's the enemy when he tells you, when you hear something like you're stupid, you're ugly, or anything like that. But on the flip side, God is going to start depositing words and things on the inside of you. So I challenge every single person, if you have a challenge in hearing the voice of God, one of the first things that you need to do is sit back and ask God, what he thinks about you. I had a guy one time, good friend of mine, who was going through a lot of personal things in his life. And God told me, he came up for prayer at our church one time, drove from out of town, came up for prayer. And he said a couple things, and God told me to ask him. He said, why don't you ask him what I think about him? And so he said when he left the altar and he went back home and got back to his house, he opened up a notebook and he said, God, what do you think about me? And he called me, and he had pages and pages of things that God reminded him of certain things he had done and all these different things. And God reminded him how much he loved him. And man, to this day, this guy is like a rock star, man. I'm telling you. And it's all because he recognized God's worth and what God said about him.
And that's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Rob, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us, man.
Man, thanks for having me, brother. Anytime.
Man, I know you've got a book coming out pretty soon.
Yeah.
Do me a
It's
favor.
been down a little bit, but we trust in God, and we know God is working it out.
Absolutely. Do me a favor.
Yeah.
I want the first interview when that book is released.
Oh, no doubt. You got it. Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
No doubt.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, friend.
Yes, sir. No problem.
And best wishes to you and your beautiful wife and all that you all are doing there at the Bar Church there in Riverdale.
Man, I appreciate you, man. God bless you so much. Thank you for having me. God bless you and Seed Planters and everything that you all are doing. God bless TED Talk. I'm not TED Talk. Look at that. I'm speaking it over your life. Boy. You LongTalk going to TED Talk. That's what's up. So,
I receive it, man. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Yes,
all right,
sir.
take care. We'll talk again.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Friends, tonight, what a conversation to understand self-worth. What a conversation to understand the difference between self-worth and self-confidence. Tonight, I pray that you have been enriched by this conversation and by this long talk, because I know that it is very difficult during this time of crisis, pandemic, and everything that's going on with the civil unrest to really understand and to identify who you are and what your purpose is in today's culture. But I need you to hear what was already uttered earlier this evening. It is not about your ability, not about your effort, nor is it about your performance. So I want you right now, during the end of this long talk, just to take a deep breath. Come on, let's do it together. Let's be liberated. And let's know that God's grace has been given to us all without what we ask for. He gives it to us. Even if you have never asked him for it, trust me, he's giving you grace. And that grace is sufficient enough for you to achieve all that you have been preordained to achieve. So if I were you, I would continue to rely and trust on the grace of God and just know that it's all going to work out. It's going to be okay. But wait a minute, preacher, what about the 5 steps? Daunta Long, what about the strategies? And what about the branding? And what about the marketing? And what about the financing? And what about this? And what about that? And what about the investors? And what about crowdsource funding? And what about, and on and on and on. What about? But I want to let you know tonight, as we leave you, you can find your self-worth in appreciating what God has already said about you. All right? Well, listen, before we go, as always, stay connected with us here on Long Talk. Continue to stay engaged, because we got much more relevant dialogue and guests that are coming in the next week. And in the month of August, we've got some wonderful programming lined up. So I want you to stay tuned, invite your friends, invite everybody to tune in to Long Talk. It's your most trusted place for authentic conversation every Tuesday and every Thursday right here on LongTalk. So friends, we appreciate you. We thank you. And I pray that you've enjoyed this LongTalk. And I'll see you again this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. God bless you.
Follow us on Facebook at Daunta A. Long. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta A. Long. Thank you for tuning in to LongTalk.